Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is Gavin, and it's nice to see you again. Um, I've been lazy the last few weeks. I've been on vacation, so I haven't shaved, so hope you can deal with that. Um, I don't like shaving because it means I have to look at my face in the mirror, and I don't enjoy that very much. It's like, But anyway, I've got a real mixed bag of stuff to show you. This is a combination of stuff that I've recently purchased, either online or at music stores, and some stuff that I just grabbed off the shelf at random. And we are going to start with this, what I consider David Bowie's masterpiece. This is Aladdin Sane. Excuse me. And I really love this record. I have the original copy on vinyl elsewhere, but I kind of wore out a couple of songs on it. One of them being the title cut, Aladdin Sane. And one thing I appreciate about that song is the fantastic piano solo that's in there. I mean, who plays like that? I think his name is Mike Garson. And it's a gatefold. I recently purchased this. It's on 180 gram vinyl. And the play on words, the line in the song is, "Who will love Aladdin sane?" And you look at the title, it's Aladdin, as in the genie, and sane, as in not crazy. But Bowie's cleverness with the English language and his play on words, it can also be taken as, who will love a lad insane. And I had the same situation when I got his album Diamond Dogs, and I've always wondered, what does that mean, Diamond Dogs? And then it occurred to me, a long time ago, there's a song that says, diamonds are a girl's best friend. And of course, we know who man's best friend is, and that's a dog. And I'm not implying anything. I'm not saying anything, but it just shows the cleverness of this genius who is surely missed, David Bowie. And I tell you what, I have the two box sets that were recently released. One of them being 5 Years, and the other one is Who Can I Be Now? I'm awaiting the arrival of the third one, which is called A New Career in Town. When that one arrives, I will show all three of these in their entirety. But 5 Years covers the first albums, including Space Oddity, The Man Who Sold the World, and so forth. This one here includes Who Can I Be Now? Covers Diamond Dogs, David Live, Young Americans, Station to Station. And they come in these little mini LPs. And I'll show you this one here. It comes in a slipcase. And there, mini LPs plus a booklet. The one coming, A New Career in Town, covers the Berlin trilogy, which is Low, Lodger, and Heroes Are Hard to Find. No, Heroes. Heroes Are Hard to Find is Fleetwood Mac. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm making this recording at about 1 in the morning because I cannot sleep. I have terrible insomnia. And I'm drinking this, but it just doesn't help. Just kidding. So since I'm up late, I figured I'd just go ahead and do a video. A lot of this stuff is music that I was listening to in the late 70s, early 80s. And let's start off with an album. I was getting something to eat one day, and I drove by this place that I'd never noticed before. It was called Friends 2, and it was a record warehouse. So I went up to the guy and said, "Hey, what is this place?" He goes, "Well, this is a record warehouse where we distribute music to places all over Kansas." He said, "Would you like a job?" And I said, "Okay." He sat me down, I filled out the paperwork, and I was hired. Stuff like that doesn't happen anymore. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I was able to get a lot of music for free if it was a promo, or get a whopping discount. And some of the records that you're about to see is some of the stuff I bought. The first record I bought was The Clash's London Calling. And I fell in love with that album so much. It's probably my all-time favorite album that I decided to go back and do some Clash shopping. This is the first album. Now, a lot of people think punk rock is just simply people moshing around and just high energy and anger. But this is a very social political group. The Clash has always tackled issues like that. and this album is no exception. Now, there's an American version and a UK version, and they have different songs on them. So it's probably best if you get both the US and the UK copy, which I do have. I think this is the US copy, but this is a great album, high energy, just a wonderful record to listen to. And then I decided to go back and get the Black Market Clash. It was reissued in 1993 as a 12-inch disc, I believe, with 3 additional songs. But originally it was released as a 10-inch, which I have over here somewhere, with only 9 songs. This, oddly enough, is the 12-inch that was issued with the 9 songs, which are, once again, high energy, typical of the stuff that we enjoy listening to The Clash for. And then I decided to get this monstrosity here. This is Sandinista. Now, when I first got it, I did not like this album. There was a couple of songs in here like Kingston Advice, Somebody Got Murdered, and let's see, Lightning Strikes Not Once But Twice. Songs that were reminiscent of The Clash, the way they sounded when they released London Calling. Then after a couple of decades of not touching this thing, I blew the dust off and listened to it again, and it's really not that bad. There's some filler on this album, but one thing that puzzles me is a lot of artists from the rap and hip-hop community have not sampled some of these songs because it's just ripe for that. You may not agree with that sort of thing, but it just seems to me that some of these songs could be sampled and hip-hop too. But it's a 3-record set, which is pretty ambitious. But London Calling was a 2-record set, and it's probably one of the greatest albums of all time. So I can't blame the boys for trying. And excuse me. And of course, The Clash consisted of Paul Simonon, Topper Headon, Mick Jones, and of course the great Joe Strummer. May he rest in peace. I've said this before, but if you get a chance, there's a Jim Jarmusch movie called Mystery Train, in which Joe Strummer actually is one of the main characters, and he doesn't do a bad job of acting. One of the other albums that came out in the late 70s is this one, when New Wave was just at its height. This album had a really special appeal to me. This is Sniffin' the Tears, Fickle Heart, and of course we all recognize the song Driver's Seat. Just a wonderful, wonderful album. I listened to this thing and I wore it out, and I had to buy several copies of this album because I wore them out. 1979, I think, another album I bought from the Record Warehouse is John Cale's Sabotage Live. I love this thing. I've always loved John Cale. On this particular album, he plays upright bass, guitar, piano, and I believe the viola. The viola was the instrument he played when he was with the Velvet Underground. So if you have not listened to the Velvet Underground, try listening to Loaded or the Velvet Underground and Nico. But this album here, live record, starts off with the punch in the gut, Ready for War, Mercenaries. He does a version of Rufus Thomas's song Walking the Dog, which is also pretty spectacular. And I love this record. I love every record I put out. I love everything. I love everybody. 1984, 1982, something like that, we had this indie. By the way, I didn't mention this before, but a lot of the stuff I'm going to be showing is, punk, post-punk, indie rock, college rock, stuff like that. This is a really good record. I heard on accident. I thought I was buying the record that was behind it, and I forget what record it was. When I got to the counter, I realized that this was what I was buying, and I was passive-aggressive, so it's like, okay, I'll take it. Man, this is good. Zeitgeist is now known as the Reivers or the Rivers. That's Reivers. I believe they had to change their name because some other group claimed the name Zeitgeist. But this is a fantastic record. Side 2 is just songwriting perfection, and I'm so glad I own this. In fact, I have, it was given to me, it's somewhere. It was a bootleg version of this on CD, which I can listen to in my car. I tried listening to vinyl in my car, but it just doesn't work out right. Now, I heard somebody say before that to them, the group Oasis was like a continuation of the Beatles. The Beatles are irreplaceable. I know that. Don't start pressing that dislike button. But we like the Beatles so much that we kind of want them to continue on forever. And for some people it was Oasis, but for me it was The Replacements. And it's ironic that the name of the group is The Replacements because I kind of felt like they were replacing the Beatles. In fact, the name of this album here is Let It Be. I love this record. It's, I believe Austin, Texas put out a list of the best college or indie albums of all time. This thing ranked really high. Just like the Zeitgeist ranked really high. I think it was number 3. But this album makes a lot of top 10 lists when it comes to indie rock. And it's said that this cover was perfect because it described the personalities of the gentlemen in the group. A funny story about this record is I was playing this for a friend of mine who has a daughter who's about 16 or 17. And she said, "Hey, this sounds pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of Paul Westerberg." So for those of you who know about The Replacements, you'll get the joke. But this is fun listening. And then in 1992 or 1993, we had this group. This is called Headgear, and this is the third album by Field Trip. And I can't describe them none other than they kind of remind me of REM. And I have not had a chance to find any more of their records, but I want to badly. I like this record so much that I bought the CD and the vinyl. And back in the day, Sub Pop was a great record producer, as was Sympathy for the record industry. They were releasing some really good stuff, and I just bought up everything I could, and that was one of them. Now we're going to talk about a group that has such power and longevity that you would imagine they have released hundreds of albums. The truth is, this group I'm going to show you next only released 4 studio albums, I believe, or maybe 5, and 1 live album, and approximately 623,189 compilation and best of albums. And I am talking about the Smiths. This is the first album they released, and this is the first album I heard. This came out in 1984, I believe. Their debut album is just it's spectacular. And the Smiths have such great song titles. We have I Don't Owe You Anything. We have Pretty Girls Make Graves. Of course, Ugly Girls Make Graves too. And Reel Around the Fountain, which is the very first song on the album and the very first song I heard from the Smiths. In the UK, this hit the charts at number 1 or number 2, but in the United States, this only came in about 100, so barely made the top 100. And then in 1985, the second album, this is Meat is Murder. The opening song, The Headmaster's Ritual, is just butt-kicking. I love that song. And once again, this one was ranked number 1 or 2 in the UK, but still barely cracked top 100 in the United States. But worth a listen. Check this out. It's great. But this one is considered a masterpiece by critics and fans alike. This is The Queen is Dead, 1985 or 1986, still in the shrink. I don't have the heart to open stuff that's still in the shrink, but that's just me. Really enjoy this album very much. This includes a poster. I have a Subway-sized poster of this album, and one of these days I'm going to hang it up, but it's huge. Then we have a final studio album, Strange Ways Here We Come. I love this album the most. This is really, really good stuff, and I think this was 87, 86. Once again, in the shrink. I have this thing about opening albums that are kind of rare that are in the shrink. Their live album, 2-record set, this is Rank. And it contains pretty much most of the stuff that you would expect, like Still Ill, Big Mouth Strikes Again, Vicar in a Tutu, The Queen is Dead, Panic. But here's my favorite Smith album, and it's a rarities and B-sides album. I don't know why these are B-sides and rarities. These are the best songs they ever did. It starts with Sheila Take a Bow, which is fantastic. I got London, Panic. What else we have? Shoplifters of the World Unite. And it's a 2-record set. In the shrink. I'll get around to opening it, but I have the CDs, so I'm listening to those in the car. But this is my favorite Smith album. This is my favorite Smiths album. Excuse me. I have a couple of the CDs with me. I have them all, but this is the only ones I have handy. This is Strange Ways, Here We Come. And here we got the English, last of the English Roses. Sound quality is horrific, but when I listen to it, it makes me feel like I'm there listening to a concert. And here's something that I've seen, well, I've never seen before, but I have a copy of this. This is definitely a bootleg, I believe. This is Nirvana live in Seattle. Can anybody tell me anything about that? I've listened to this many times. Once again, sound quality is kind of creepy. But it says on there, for use for radio play only. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy a radio station. That way I can listen to this. So that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, yeah, that should be it for now. Oh. Before I forget, got to show some artwork. I was listening on the radio. I was listening to the radio, eating my lunch. Cheese sandwich and grape Kool-Aid. I was broke. And a song came on the radio. And I don't know about you, but if you ever listen to the Grateful Dead, Truckin', that's the kind of song that will stay in your head for several years. I can't get that song out of my head. So I decided to do a little drawing, to kind of remind me of the Grateful Dead. Yes, I do use colors when I draw sometimes. And a friend of mine was looking at this picture and said, that picture kind of hypnotizes me. It's like, ooh, okay. Go to your ATM machine and take all your money out and give it to me. So anyway, all right. I hope you enjoyed this upload. Music that I listened to in the late 70s and early 80s. I'll be back with country and soul and some blind buys on some metal that I just happened to run across. If you have any suggestions or any comments or criticisms that I should hear, let me know. Thank you so much, and I love you all very, very much. Bye.